What's going on, guys? Cole here from Neiman Industries. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Jumpmaster School versus Pathfinder School. So for those who don't know, I just went through both. I literally graduated from Jumpmaster School on October 29th. It's like November 27th right now, so it hasn't even been a month. And then I graduated from Pathfinder School on the 19th. So I literally had 5 or so days between schools and went right from Jumpmaster, which was a 2-week kind of consolidated version with no weekends, straight into Pathfinder, which was the same thing, just 2 weeks straight through with no weekends. So I feel like this is still fresh in my head. And the reason that I'm comparing these two schools is because they're often compared to each other, especially when you actually go to Jumpmaster. They talk a little bit about Pathfinder stuff. And when you go to Pathfinder, same thing, they talk a little bit about Jumpmaster stuff. And it's because there's a few reasons why they're compared to each other. First off is that they're both extremely challenging academically. They're very important roles for airborne units to have. Having both of them in an airborne unit, or just in general really, is called being dual qualified. And I'll get to that in just a second. Well, really the next thing is, the reason for that is because there are jobs, certain jobs that once you become Pathfinder qualified, you can do like these jobs, and then certain jobs that when you're a Jumpmaster, you can do, and then you can't really do the full scope of both jobs unless you have both qualifications, and then you kind of like unlock all of the duties that you can do as an asset to an airborne organization. So, they're related. They're both extremely challenging academically, and so they're constantly compared to each other. And as I was going through both courses, and even after I've graduated both of them, I get asked a lot of times, which one did you think was harder? And apparently, we'll get to my opinion here in just a second, but apparently there's a lot of people that think, people are mixed on it. Some people think Pathfinder is way harder. Some people think that Jumpmaster is way harder. I've also heard some guys say that whichever one they went to first, they think is the hard one. And then I've heard other instructors say that they think whichever one people go to second, they think is the harder one. It's a toss-up. But all I can do is give you my opinion and give you a few reasons why. So, in my opinion, Pathfinder School was 100 times harder than Jumpmaster School. However, Jumpmaster School is more stressful than Pathfinder School. And here's why. So, let's just dive into the hardest parts of both courses. All right, so they're both academic. There are written tests in both. There are hands-on tests in both. But the peak difficulty level in Jumpmaster School is the JMPI test, or the Jumpmaster Personnel Inspection Test. The peak level difficulty for Pathfinder School is most commonly, I won't quite say unanimously, but most people think that it's drop zones or phase 3. So let's just compare these two hardest parts, because everything up to those 2 points is pretty doable. It's still challenging, but it's not. It's only when you get to those 2 points in each respective course does it really get like, oh wow, this school's no joke. So the reason that Jumpmaster is more stressful is because you don't really feel like you have total control over whether or not you pass. When you're doing your JMPI test, and I talked a little bit about this in my Jumpmaster vlog video, if you maintain over an 80% on all of your scores up to the JMPI test, you get what's called re-entry. And so you would have a total of 5 attempts. If you don't have over an 80% on all of your scores, you don't get re-entry. So you get a total of 3 attempts. So those attempts would be the pre-test, which nobody really ever passes. You have your test, then your retest, and then if you have that 80% or higher, you get re-entry, and then you get a re-entry retest. And for me personally, and apparently this happens for a lot of people, you don't pass on your first few tries. You pass on like your last or second to last try. And for me personally, I went through my pre-test, my test, and my retest, and I didn't even get close to passing. Nowhere even close. And just so you guys know the test conditions and the standards for the JMPI. So you're given 3 jumpers that you have to JMPI. All of them have to be JMPI'd in under 5 minutes. Not individually, but all 3 of them have to be done in under 5 minutes, which that in itself is pretty insane. There are 0 to 5 deficiencies. You have to be able to call those deficiencies by the nomenclature. You can't stop. That doesn't buy you time. You still have your 5 minutes. And while you're inspecting, you have to be able to call that deficiency off and keep moving. And then you also have to do it in sequence. So if you obviously break sequence, or depending on the grader that you get, if you break even the most minute little sequence, you automatically fail. And so for me, on my first 3 attempts, I didn't even get off the first jumper, because if you fail on one jumper, they stop you. When you finish that inspection, you move to start your inspection on the next jumper, they just stop you. And so for my first 3 tests, I would go through my first jumper and I'm calling deficiencies, and then I would give them the seal of approval, kind of smack them on the leg and say recover, and I would move to the next jumper to start my inspection, and I would immediately get stopped. And it's very discouraging, it's very frustrating. And so I'm sitting back in my room and I'm just thinking, like, I have to get through 3 of these guys and I can't even get to the second one. And I have to, so like I can't even get to the second jumper, let alone get to the third jumper. And then I still have to worry about time and calling all of my deficiencies. And I was like, there's no way I'm passing this school. I literally started packing my stuff because I didn't think I was going to pass. We did the pre-test on one day, and then the test and the retest the next day, and then the re-entry and the re-entry retest the following day. So after I failed my retest, or my 3rd attempt, I had to go back into my barracks room and just like sit there. And I was like, there's no way I'm not passing it. And we kind of knew at this in this specific school, there was one grader who was way more strict than the other grader. Now, they both maintained a standard, but one grader was really, really adamant on following the sequence to the letter. And one of the sequence violations that I had, which a sequence violation is an automatic fail, was as I was tracing the rear of the jumper's helmet, my thumb came off of my hand. And the sequence in the book says fingers and thumbs extended and joined. And so when I went to sweep the back of the helmet, the rim of the helmet, my thumbs weren't fingers and thumbs extended and joined. My thumbs weren't joined to the rest of my hand. And he actually stopped me and he said, hey, you had a sequence violation. Your thumbs weren't joined. And so the other guy was like, so long as your sequence was there, he wasn't looking to the letter of the T, but so long as your sequence was there, you made time and you found all the deficiencies, he would give you a go. So you just feel like you don't have as much control over your fate because it really depends on your grader, and the graders can be a little bit different. Just like anything in the Army, depending on who your grader is, that can really determine your fate. With Pathfinder School, you determine your own fate. Some of the concepts are really hard to pick up. Some of the math equations are really hard. Some of the stuff to remember is really hard, but it's really just testing your ability to retain a massive amount of information. There is no variable in that test, in those test conditions. It's just, here's the material. It's a massive amount of material, and now you're going to test on the material, and that's it. However, the hardest part of Pathfinder School, in my opinion, is the DZ written test. And I think most people would agree with that. But the test is basically 6 different tests all taking place at the same time. 5 of those tests are 10 questions. And then the 6th test is a drop zone survey that you have to fill out. Those 10 questions are 5 of them, and this is, some of this stuff might change depending on which school you go to, but for the school that I was at, they were 10 questions each for the first 5 sections, 5 multiple choice, followed by 5 just fill in the blank questions. So I think 2 or 3 of them were kind of involved some math and some equations, and then the other ones were general knowledge, and then you had the survey. The survey was really a gimme. There wasn't enough things on there. So long as you hit a few major points, that one was pretty easy. The general knowledge questions were like you either know it or you don't. The part where it gets really dicey in that is in the math, and specifically the 1 nanas charts, which is basically determining your length and width minimum requirements for a drop zone. And so the reason that a lot of those are hard is because in the drop zones phase, they're basically like, here's this chart. You have to remember this entire chart for your written test, which you have about 3 or 4 days. This entire chart has a huge amount of information. It has drop speeds for all the different aircraft and different loads that they're dropping, whether it's heavy equipment, door bundles, personnel, what have you. They have drop speeds, drop altitudes, again, different aircraft with different equipment or different things that they're dropping and different parachutes that they're dropping. Minimum, and they have their standard drop altitudes and then their minimum drop altitudes. Then you also have point of impact locations relative to center line of the drop zone from the lead edge. And your altitude is in feet above ground level. Then your PI locations, your points of impact, are in yards, and then your speeds are in knots or kias, and then you have other things that are in meters, and you have to remember all that. And it's not just like small charts; they're really, really big charts. And then you also have equations on that on this paper that they give you, and you have to remember all the equations, why or at what point you would be using each equation, what the rules are for each equation, because some of the equations are you always round up, other equations are you always round down, other ones you round normally. So, and what I mean by that is like the ones that always round up, it could be 5.1 and you round it up to 6. It could be 5.000001 and you round it up to 6. Other times it could be the opposite. You could always round down. Even if it's 5.9999999, you round it down to 5. And then other times for different equations, you just round normally. So that's hard to remember. There's a lot of other information on there as well. And I won't bother to go get the sheet just because it's just complex. And if you're going to go to that school, then it would probably just confuse you anyways. But you have to remember that entire sheet going into the test, in addition to your general knowledge. And so when you get to your math equations, you have to remember that sheet because it'll just say a C-17 flying with heavy equipment at its normal drop or its minimum drop altitude with this equipment with this parachute, and it won't give you the specifics of the altitude or the speed or anything like that. It'll just assume that you know it, and you have to be able to remember it from that sheet. And then it has this equation that it's requiring you to do, so you have to be able to remember the sheet, remember which equation you're using and why you're using it, and then remember all the rules to the equation. And there's a ton of questions like that. But like I was saying earlier, specifically the 1 nanas charts take about an hour to do that section. That one section out of the total of 6 sections, it takes about an hour to do that. Well, if you fail any part of the test, they only require that you retest on the sections that you failed, which sounds nice, right? Unless you only fail the 1 nanas charts, because they give you 25 minutes to test per section. So the knowledge sections might take you a few minutes. Some of the math might be a little easy. It might take you a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes to do that section. The survey might take you 10 or 15 minutes, but the 1 nanas chart takes you about a few maybe an hour, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And so if you fail a knowledge section and the 1 section, well, you got 50 minutes to do those 2 sections. If you fail 2 general knowledge sections, well, you got 50 minutes to do what might take you 5 or 10 minutes to actually be able to answer. But if you fail the 1 section and just the 1 section, you have 25 minutes to do 10 math problems that really would take about an hour or more. And so that's what happened to me. And that was extremely stressful, but I felt like I was in control. There was just a lot of pressure. It was like, I have to perform right now or I'm going home. Fortunately, I did somehow skate by the skin of my teeth, and I passed. But as far as overall between Jumpmaster and Pathfinder, the amount of knowledge that you have to retain for Jumpmaster is significantly less than for Pathfinder. Pathfinder is all classroom except for sling loads and except for the final FTX, which is a day of a few things. It's not a big deal. Pathfinder's, the vast majority is just written tests and retention of information. Jumpmaster has a few written tests, but they're all very easy compared to Pathfinder School. The amount of knowledge that you have to remember is much smaller, and it's just easier to test for all of those things except for JMPI. That almost feels impossible because somebody else is determining your fate. Pathfinder School, there isn't somebody else determining your fate, but there's this massive amount of information that you have to be able to memorize. So I would say Jumpmaster School is more stressful, but Pathfinder School is much more difficult. So that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. If you agree with me, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, all that good jazz, and let me know what your experiences were in either Jumpmaster School or Pathfinder School. If you're going to either Jumpmaster School or Pathfinder School, then check out the videos in our channel that we just uploaded a few days ago. We have a Jumpmaster vlog / how to pass Jumpmaster School that I recorded while I was there going through the course. And then Pathfinder School, we have a how to pass Pathfinder School video. Hopefully those help you. But if you're going to either one of those schools, then good luck. They're very hard, but you'll be proud of yourself for passing them. So hit the like button, subscribe, comment, let me know what your opinions are on these 2 schools. And if you guys are new here, then welcome to Neemian Industries. We do gear videos, shooting videos, tips on passing different schools, comparison videos, and we also have a podcast. Check out some of our podcast videos on this channel. I need to actually make a playlist of just those. And then check out our website at neemianindustries.com. We are going to start offering firearms instructional courses in the spring, and currently we already offer a pretty lengthy clothing line, and there's a lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline that hopefully you'll want to stick around for. We have a lot of big things coming, a lot of other small veteran-owned businesses that we're working with to try and help each other grow. And it's going to be really exciting, so stick around for it. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell and all that jazz that everybody says in all their YouTube videos, and stick around and watch us grow and help us grow. And thanks for watching the video, guys, and good luck at Jumpmaster and Pathfinder School. Thanks.